Hi everyone, this is a pretty major update to C64 Dev Machine's tile editor. So I'm just going to go in and start making something so that you know how it's done. So we're going to add a character set here and just start working on it. Always leave this tile empty, the background tile, unless you really want something like a repeated pattern. That's basically the default tile that's used to populate the background. You can work in high res or multicolor mode here to sort of see how things are looking. You see it clips to the correct color range when you're in multicolor mode there. And in high res mode, if that's the only mode you're using, you'll get the full 16 colors. So without further ado, let's just start making something. My favorite thing to make is just these kind of myth style rocky platforms. So I'm going to go for some brown, pink, and then that leaves some options with these other colors. So I'll go for yellow. So you get these kind of warm tones, and yeah, I'll just start drawing a little platform here. You see, it's convenient that this is the top. You wouldn't start drawing your platform halfway through it. It makes sense that it's the top of the tile itself. So I'm just kind of winging this and hoping it looks good. Right, something like that. I recently introduced copy paste into this, so you can do Control C, Control V. And then it's easy then to make a few modifications to existing tiles, so you get a bit more variation. I'll add a few other little ones here. You can switch multicolor mode off. Obviously it's going to do this to the tiles, but it's just in case you wanted something like to just work in high res for some other things. So I like to do these little kind of grassy reed things like that. Okay, so that's basically your tiles edited. You can go up to 256 characters here. You just keep adding a row, but I don't need that many for this example, so I'm going to come out of this and then add map data and then just create. This is just a single screen map I've got here, and I need to choose the character set. So what's new in here is that you can now store these meta tiles if you like. So if I start to draw with these, all right, I'll just make a little platform. If I hold down Control and do something like that, and then Control C, I now have this as a little tile. And if I press X, it will actually flip the order. That obviously doesn't make sense because of the way the tiles are. For other things, it might sort of work, but I thought I'd throw it in there anyway. All it does is just swaps the order of tiles. It doesn't actually flip them in terms of a mirror copy, because you would need flipped versions of all of that. But anyway, we can make these little platforms, and if you click store, you can store that, right? And I can go ahead and make some other ones. So if I just press escape, you come out of that mode, and I'm going to make some new ones. Right, and I can even put some there and some there, and I'm going to switch to high res mode and green here just to put something like that and that in. Right, they don't make much sense there, but let's just take that one away. Yeah, I'll put that there, right? And you can hold down Control again, and you can select multiple like that, right? Don't select the black ones because they'll be baked into that. So Control C, and you can see now it only pastes what it needs to. And it also works with undo. There's undo redo here, so I'm just going to store that. And then escape to come out of it. So I can always go back and say, right, I want this tile. Then back here. Right, I probably press X on that is going to go a bit crazy, but yeah, I just thought I'd throw that in there as well. So it's now going to be so much easier to build your maps up. The thing that came to my mind now is that I need a meta mode. This is fine. This is all fine and dandy for single tile for build up of maps, but that's quite expensive in terms of when you start to build up a game of different maps. So I'm thinking now I want a meta mode which only works with these tiles. Right, only works with these. So you would switch it into a meta mode, and it would take all your little meta tiles that you've made up and compress that in memory, and they would all have little kind of tags, you know, their size. But I would limit it to something like any multiple of 2x4, 3x4. So minimum 2x2, maximum 4x4, and that would be good. You see, this one's like 5 by whatever, right? But I need something consistent so I can compact the data a bit better. And so you would just choose from the outset like 2x2 mode, and all your meta tiles would be 2x2s, or 2x3, or 3x2, 3x4, 4x3, or 2x4, 4x2, or 4x4, right? That'd be your combination. Or I was thinking like a anything goes sort of mode where it's more like this. That would be more expensive. Yeah, and whether the black tiles here are written or ignored, like this, you see they're ignored because I only picked those ones. So the tile zeros you could have as, I mean, it makes sense just to make them ignored, right? So that you can layer things up however you would want, right? You just sort of, put them in place like that. I might decrease the dimming there, it's a bit too strong. But I think that's the right way forward for this now that it's here at this stage. This is great for building a generic map, and we can test this. So I'm going to close it and bring in, I think I just need a map and yeah, a character set. So I choose that one, and then I'll put in a game loop because it might, I don't know if it'll crash out, I forget. But I'll put them in. And there you go, there's our map. Right, and this all works well with scrolling. So you can put in map scroll, and you set that up there, and then you have to call it. So you do a J on the node to change it to a JSR, and find the scroller and pop that in there. I like to tab it in, and it needs a V weight because it will scroll too fast. It's going to scroll the full screen, which sometimes has a little bit of a hiccup to it because it's quite a lot it needs to do. But that should be it. Let's just press F5 on that. And because it's such a small map, it just wraps itself, or it just wraps around. That all works fine. You see it supports high res and multicolor. It's the low nibble high res colors. If you change it here, I forget how this works. I think if I change it here, it automatically would update. It might crash. I've not tested this in a while. Yeah, there we go. So that mode means that if you wanted to make a map purely in high res, you do have access to the higher colors. So for example, I'll just put some of these ones up here just to show you, yes, you do have access to this upper range of colors. And hopefully that just works because I've not tested it yet. Yeah, that works, right? Cool. You can see the tiny little bit of ripping here, and that is just the double buffer switching, right? The only way to make this work for a full screen of scrolling was to double buffer these things. So it uses, as you can see here, it uses this section 0C00. It tells you in there. Yeah, it tells you in here. Uses 0C00 to 0FFF for the second buffer, so it switches it because there's too much time needed to do it any other way. So that was the solution to that. After a week of pain, but that worked eventually, and now we need to support the speed. I don't think this actually does anything. I put it in place, but yeah, it just didn't do anything. I don't know if I've managed to fix it yet. Yeah, that still does nothing, right? And there was going to be a direction as well. I only have it scrolling that direction, so Super Mario style. You only go right. You can't go back the way. It's great for shoot 'em ups. Great for typical platformers where you can't go back. It kind of makes for a good limitation to a game. But something like Turrican, where you can go up, down, left, right, that's the end goal, as well as shoot 'em up construction kit style vertical scrolling. I want that as well. But for now, the scroller is pretty basic. As you can see, I want to do stuff with the map and make metamap stuff. I don't know if that's going to be a separate asset or just a separate mode. I need to figure it out. I'm doing a lot of planning just now. But it's all working great. I'm happy with it. You can come back in here. It saves everything as well. You just grab these and put them down. I'm going to change that dimming level because I do like to see what I'm working with, although it works. Press escape to come out of that. You can change the map size at any time, but it's locked to 25 in height. And I think the maximum's 160. It'll probably cap at 160. Yep. So you can have a map that's four screens wide, and I'm just going to do that. Middle mouse, drag over. I also need to show a divide where the screen would be, but it doesn't really matter because it scrolls. But if I just do 1, 2, 3 like that, yeah, that's the edge. You can right click as well and delete all the same. It just deletes the first tile, right? I might make that work for the full stamp shape. Okay, so I'll come out of that and let's hit F5. That should scroll 4 maps worth, so you get to see roughly what that be like. Oh, it's still in that mode. Why is that still in? Oh, okay. Why is that still in that mode? I think I've obviously broke something. Mixed high res. Okay. I found a bug then that all of these switch, but if you hold down A, this is another little feature. If you hold down A and let's see, is it A or S? Sorry, S. If you hold down S over these and just hold down S and just move the mouse over them, it actually makes them into multicolor, like everything. So, and then if you want to switch back to high res, you just hold down A. It's a nice little touch that I needed. I was like, okay, well, I need to make it easier to just change something, right? And that was a nice little solution. You just hold down A and just move the mouse over it. You can do that with color. So it says shift color only. So you change to yellow, hold down shift, and then you paint. So that will just change the tiles unique color, right? So you can do stuff like that. Alt pan M toggles between the two modes universally. A, make it high res. S, hold, make it multicolor. P, paint mode, so you can toggle if you're going to paint in that mode or that mode. And X, flip the stamp order, right? So it flips the order, doesn't mirror them. It's a different thing. Mirroring's done through the character editor, which so you could do a mirror version of things. Can't scroll out here yet, but let me just work here. Right, and if I wanted to mirror stuff, I would do flip X. I'll make this easier as well. That obviously needs to be make more sense. So now I need to copy that to that, that to there, and that to there. I'll make that algorithm up so it just does that, right? And then clear here. Also deleting doesn't do it yet. You can't delete, so it would truncate. all these little things still to be done with the character editor, but it's still pretty good to go. So I've got a flip version of that, right, essentially, and I can then modify it. It's just another way of getting more artwork done quickly, right? What else is it really? You can add rows here. You can go up to 256. All right, just caps at that. So if you were doing once you've added, you can't take away, by the way. It's kind of you're locked in. But if you were doing a kind of 2x2 meta tile, which is kind of common, you could draw them like that so that you can kind of see them in here, right? You can lay them out that way. Right, whatever you want, you can just copy and paste that there, then flip it, I suppose. Right, and then close that, and then if you were coming into your map, and you say, okay, let's make that up. Well, it's this one, that one, and that one. Control and click them. Control C to get the brush, and then store it so that you can always get it later. Right, and then that's kind of it. I'm going to change the dimming amounts too much, and all that other stuff I talked about is a few days of planning first. It'll probably be a couple of weeks before I get it in. There's other stuff I want to do, but this is pretty major, I think, and I'm quite happy with it. So I'll post this now. Like, the video is going to go live at the same time as me updating this alpha 099.56 alpha. So it's getting pretty powerful now, that with the previous video with the bitmap importer and everything is getting quite powerful. I had in my mind to do an exporter for this, where you can export all the meta tiles. But I'll do that once I get there, because things might get refactored. There's no point in me doing an exporter right now, like to make it compatible with like CarPad. Like if you weren't using game dev machine to code, for example, if you're using another tool, then you might come here and be like, there's a bit more convenience in here for you for certain things. So I do want to give it a bit more flexibility and make it make more sense over time. Things are still clunky and janky, and they just work, but the UI is kind of all over the place. I'm making things work first, then making them look pretty later. So that's also why I'm kind of a bit hesitant with tutorials and stuff, because things might become so much different. I'll need to redo all these tutorials because the layout would change and certain terminologies might change. Everything's just, working, and that's the important bit. I just want to see how that map looks with all that chunk in there, so I'll just hit F5. Just making sure it looks right. So I do like that A and S feature. So S switches to multicolor, A back to mono. It's just nice to have it them there at your fingertips. It's all round your left hand. So that's the end there, and ellipse background. It's quite a big map, you think about it. That's potentially the size of a myth map. I'm not too sure how to do swapping out maps just yet, because the map date is declared here. I think you can do it. I think you just do a one call. So set a variable to 0, right? And you call it like map call or map, whatever map state. So map state 0 it would be this. And then if you got to a new level, you say map state 1, and then it would bring in a new map. The problem is, look at all this data that map uses up. It uses all of this section here just for that one map. That is why I need these meta tiles, right? Otherwise, you'd be storing all this data into, which is 8 kilobytes by the looks of it. You'd be storing that into a disk. 8 kilobytes in a disk isn't too bad, but loading it up and stuff, whatever. And it just gets then fed into that. It's going to be fine when you support cartridges and stuff, but imagine doing a tape version. You know what? It's all nostalgic to me. It's all, who cares? People enjoy the nostalgia of something loading and seeing the bars and going and getting a cuppa and come back and the game's loaded. It's a perfect reason to get up off your butt these days. Too many people just sit at their computer and don't take a break. Old machines made you take a break, right? They basically told you to go and take a break, and you come back, you hear the music, you see the bitmap loading. It's perfect stuff. You know, it's the right recipe. I like to take breaks often. Anyway, enough wombling on about whatever. But here we go. This is where C64 Dev Machine is at. I'm working on some sort of sound effects generator as well. I'm planning that. So I'm just seeing if it's possible through Game Maker, writing buffers that sound like sine wave and sawtooth, and then making an envelope work with them. And if I can kind of imitate roughly what they'd sound like, then that'd be pretty cool. I don't know if you remember Shoot 'em Up Construction Kit had a little sound effect thing, little table. I want to do that, but maybe a few more. Like, I want to copy that sort of thing. I like that a lot. It'll be limited in ways, but I would like to just mess with it and see how far I can push it, and then make that compatible with the sound effect assets, which are currently just you import a goat tracker file, and it rips the instruments out and treats them like sound effects, but it's missing filters and stuff. It's just basic the lookup table for the wave, and uses the ADSR and stuff. So that's as basic as it needs to be right now anyway. That's working, and it's working alongside certain tracks that support sound effects. Again, goat tracker's kind of like my only avenue right now. But what if people want to use other tools like SID Wizard or whatever basically would give them a SID file, right? And how you would get that into this, there'd be importers later on. Again, this is only 3 or 4 months into this. There's so much more scope how far this could go. So I'd say it's like 10% of what it could be in the long run, but it's almost like 100% of this this working thing where you can actually make a game with it. Sure, it's rough around the edges, and sure, it'll be polished up over time, but that's just how it goes. Get everything working first, and then fine tune it later. But I've not had that many bugs now. More confident to say start making a game with it, especially with this map data in there. But you can see it's not optimized. You could probably, if you wanted, put all your meta tiles up the top left here of your map and load that in and make your own system for building the maps. I don't know yet, but it makes sense for me to do it, so I'll definitely work on that. And that's going to wrap up this video. Hopefully you enjoy this version. So this is alpha version 099.56, out today on the 19th of April. And yeah, as soon as this video goes live, the link will be there in the description to download the demo. The demo won't limit you in any way, other than it just gives you these extra advanced features. You can still make a full-blown game with it using the drag mnemonics here. You can just do it that way. It's more for experimenting and fun. You can load in bitmaps and music and all that stuff. So you can use it just to present your things, and it'd be good if you join the Discord and you see what more advanced things are happening. That would maybe entice you to learn more. But other than that, you still have pretty much everything you need to make a game. But making games is hard, and this is not without a lot of technicalities to it, and even I struggle, and I'm the one that made it. So so it's just how it goes. You need a ton of patience and know that your game is going to take more than a couple of months to make. At least it's not going to be a quick turnaround. Like, wow, it's not one night stand, and it's not a sprint, right? So I'll catch you guys in the next video. Thanks for watching. Bye.